a little bit younger, 8 to 18. It was 10 to 18, but I'm thinking that younger kids can do these online courses too. Welcome. Is your child refusing to do math ruining your homeschool year? Let me tell you a story. It was 2003, and I was a bored and struggling elementary private school teacher trying to piecemeal curriculum together that I was using of other teachers. And I was just uninspired. And my students were bored in my classes, and we were just going through the motions of education. Sound familiar? Are you stuck in the humdrumity yet of homeschool education, like having to get through all the subjects 5 days a week, playing catch up on certain subjects, especially math, and especially when your kids are resisting doing math or flat out refusing? So I really wanted to teach my kids from a place of passion and inspiration, and it just wasn't happening. So, and I was also in a position where I was writing a lot of the curriculum for my classes, and it was exhausting. I mean, I was coming home at night, I was working till late, grading papers, and just falling into bed exhausted. So I wanted to be able to teach my students from a place of inspiration and enthusiasm. And I wanted to change their lives through their education experience. But it was just hard managing, all these different grade levels. I was actually teaching grades 3 through 5. So I had to, make sure everyone was getting what they needed. And I learned actually how to teach so that everyone, it didn't really matter what grade the kids were in. They were getting the same content. So that wasn't such a big issue. But still, managing so many different students. I had 15, which doesn't seem like a lot compared to public schools. But I felt like I was letting my students down, and I just had this sinking feeling oh man, I'm not doing right by my students. I'm not doing the best I can. Just this feeling of I'm not enough. And I felt even worse about the situation because I was supposed to be the super teacher in the classroom, doing a superhuman job like teachers are expected to do, or like homeschool parents are expected to do. But I had this sinking feeling that I was failing my students. And I felt like a failure. I felt sad. I felt demotivated. So the problem was also, there was another problem added to this situation. I was soon moved over to teach the 7th graders across the hall. The principal got this wild hair idea that he decided that we needed to do a switcheroo of teachers, which was really a bad idea. So it compounded my lack of motivation in teaching. So he switched me out of my 3rd through 5th grade classroom, moved me over to teach the older kids, the 7th through 8th graders, that did not want me to be their teacher. Their favorite teacher, Miss Carr, was across the hall teaching my students. And this situation just totally killed my desire to teach at all, since the kids wouldn't accept me. And it was like walking into a dark gray cloud every morning to teach them. It was awful. And they had no interest in teaching what I was teaching, and I had no interest in teaching them as well. So it was really, really bad situation. So, but then something amazing happened that really shifted everything. I spoke to my principal, and he decided that for the new term in January, we would switch classrooms. We would go back to the way things were, which was a huge relief. So this sparked things up a little bit, but I still had that sinking feeling that I wasn't doing the best that I could with my students. So Don Tolman, a famous wellness teacher, came to visit our school around that time, and he taught us about the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers found throughout ancient art, architecture, and these are considered nature's numbers. the golden ratio, which is a proportion of beauty, represented by 1.618, and it's an infinite number, also known as an irrational number, and the Fibonacci number series, which starts off with 1, 1, 2, 3, and you add each subsequent number to give you the next number. So it'll be 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. 5 plus 8 is 13. Okay, 8 plus 13 is 21, etc. So those are the Fibonacci numbers. They're really awesome. They're found especially in the plant kingdom. You can count numbers of flower petals. Many times they're Fibonacci numbers. Really super cool. So Dawn reintroduced that to me. I had learned about them the summer after I graduated from college. Perfect timing, right? Never learned about these numbers in grade school. They should be taught as young as preschool because it teaches kids the real life connections that there are with math and the real world, which is where math needs to start, not to be something extracurricular. So most mainstream education teaches the golden ratio numbers and Fibonacci numbers as something extracurricular, something fun and extra. But it should be the core of a mathematics education program. So I was crystal clear now on how to create learning centers and outdoor classroom experiences that got kids engaged with their learning in a hands-on experiential way, because I saw my students were much more engaged with their learning. So I actually became inspired to get outdoors to look for the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. And I went on this 7-year exciting journey, getting outdoors in nature with my camera, with my notebook, going to nature centers, learning everything I could for free from nature centers about nature, and then looking for these patterns and numbers. And I brought it into the classroom. And I learned how to create learning centers and outdoor classroom experience from my inspiration. And my kids got excited with me. So I've learned that traditional education methods just aren't enough for many kids to truly be motivated and excited in their learning experience. So you need to adopt and use what I call unit studies. Many of you know what those are. If you're a new homeschooler, unit studies start with a student topic of interest. Since we're talking about the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers, let's just go with the golden ratio. So your kids want to learn all things golden ratio. So then you would just gather resources about the golden ratio and where it's found in nature, art, and architecture. You can gather resources online and the internet. And if you click on the link I give you with this post, I give you a template on how to create these unit studies right in your homeschool. And they're super easy to create. So using learning centers, using unit studies, learning centers, and getting outdoors for a few hours, connecting with nature every day instead of the traditional mainstream math textbook learning. So as a result, I got outdoors almost every single day looking for and photographing nature's numbers and patterns. And after I did that, I started an online nature-based program called Nature Glows eScience that I could best guide the learning process unfettered from industrialized education. So suddenly I was free from brick and mortar situations. Long story short, I ended up losing my job at the last private school that I worked at, last private day school, which was a blessing in disguise because it enabled me to start my online program. So I could now pick and choose what nature-based courses to develop and teach, which enabled me to create several year-long courses, including math, art, marine biology, and numerous zoology and botany courses. And the reason I teach natural sciences is because they're a great seedbed for also teaching mathematics. So that's when I realized that the secret to piecemeal curriculum together, the secret to piecemeal curriculum together that I was using of other teachers was just uninspiring. And my students were bored. They were just going through the motions. And then I found math connections in the real world and connecting it with other core academics to make for a richer learning experience. So my plan was to start leaving the teacher marketplace. When I first started Nature Glows eScience, I was in a teacher marketplace called Kirklick.com, which has since closed down. And I wanted to go solo, have my own business, which I do right now. So I started creating numerous online courses and building my own website, a WordPress website. But I didn't stop there. I created and started selling online courses to homeschoolers who struggle to teach their kids math and science, or whose kids want to spend most of their learning time learning about the natural world. So after that, I taught and recorded all of my videos per lesson, gathered the internet resources, including projects the kids could do hands-on. But there was still a problem. So being an independent online educator without marketing training, I've struggled to find enough homeschoolers that are looking for a nature-based program for their kids. So I ended up having to get a job last year at a private boarding school in 2019. And that was really a very difficult and disheartening situation on so many levels. I just couldn't believe that it just didn't work out. I was not accepted by the staff or the students. It was the weirdest situation. I can't say anything like that has happened to me since 7th and 8th grade. And it felt like I was reliving the time period of my life in 7th and 8th grade while I was teaching 7th and 8th graders. If you've ever been like, what's the word I'm looking for? If you've ever been shunned by a group of people, that's actually what happened to me. It was so bizarre. Very uncomfortable feeling, like I had this sinking feeling in my stomach every day, like, what am I doing here? Like, I just didn't fit there. They weren't my tribe. So I ended up leaving the job early on account of being demoted for much less pay. And I found a way to get back to only focusing on growing Nature Glows eScience and on learning marketing to get the word out. And that's actually where I'm at right now, to be transparent. So the achievement, I ended up getting so frustrated that I decided to focus on getting my most popular course, Math Art. Now, the Fibonacci numbers and golden ratio is actually, those are the very first lessons that I teach in my Math Art course. And I've always believed that Math Art has an incredible potential as my front-end focal program for homeschool kids. So right now I'm calling it Nature Glows Math Art. So I thought if I could create something that would make it possible for homeschool math and nature-based education to have unit studies and done-for-you online unit studies, that, you know, it would really serve the homeschool community in a big way. So after 9 years of creating dozens of online courses, testing them with real homeschool kids in various marketplaces, I've created Nature Glows Math Art, and from Nature Glows eScience, my main business name. So I can now teach all of my courses without being in a classroom or showing up daily for live online classes, because all of my pre-recorded online courses are done for you. So as a result, I've been able to achieve the following. So within the last 9 years, I've had thousands of students and teachers use Nature Glows eScience for their learning and teaching needs. So after creating Nature Glows eScience, I was not only able to have my own online school that teaches hundreds of kids on a daily basis, 5 to 6 days a week, while I moderate comments once per day for around 15 minutes. I've also been able to stop spending so much time writing lessons, because I can now create online programs super quickly. And in the end, all this means is I'm now able to spend time getting the word out there about Nature Glows eScience. All right, thank you so much for watching. I did want to go ahead and share a little bit of education with you because some of you have not yet heard of the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. So let me go ahead and just get this screen share together, which seems to have disappeared, oddly enough. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. And let me turn this on. There, okay. So I'm going to give you a little taste of my most popular lesson called The Golden Ratio and Fibonacci Numbers, the introduction and history of the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. So let me just get this started here. And here we go. All right, so introduction and history of the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. And here you can see a pine cone. And pine cones almost always have a Fibonacci number spiral turn. It'll match up with a Fibonacci number. Typically 5 turns to the right and 8 turns to the left, or vice versa. And those are both Fibonacci numbers. Okay, and here you can see a 5-pointed C star. 5 is a Fibonacci number. Here is a pineapple, which has turns, typically almost their Fibonacci numbers. So you would just count, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think there are 8 turns there. And then there are also turns in the opposite direction. Here you have the cross section of an apple exhibiting a 5-pointed star, 5 being a Fibonacci number. And here we have a trillium wildflower with 3 flower parts here and 3 flower parts there as well. And here we have illustrated opposite spiral turns on, I think this is a daisy seed head. Okay, so what is the golden number? The golden number is 1.618033989, etc. This is an infinite or irrational number. It's usually just shortened down to 1.618, but that doesn't change the number's value. As I just mentioned, the golden ratio is an irrational number. That means it can't be expressed as a whole number or a fraction. This is a ratio for beauty, and it is an infinite number that repeats. Here in the background, whoops, sorry about that. Okay, how do I get that to reshare? I don't know. Okay, a little guffaw here. Okay, we're still in PowerPoint mode. So here we have the cross section of a chambered nautilus. This is one of nature's logarithmic or growth spirals. And this is sometimes debunked as a golden spiral. Sometimes they can be within the golden ratio, but more times than not, they're not. So they're a better, more approximate is a golden spiral on a 180-degree rotation. So here's how the golden ratio is written. A plus B is to A as A is to B. All right, so the Great Pyramid of Egypt has mathematical evidence for containing the golden ratio pi and the this is a painting by G.W. Zeitz. And this is, as we know, one of the wonders of the world. So a lot of evidence is proving that the golden ratio was used to help build the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The Parthenon and Plato. So just a little bit of history. I'm showing you how you can integrate history into the study of the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers. So the Parthenon and Plato from 448 to 347 BC. Here in the background, we have the Porch of Maidens, or the caryatid porch of the Erechtheian Athens, 421 to 407 BC. So during this time period, the Greek Parthenon was built, and its design and proportions have been found to be golden in column heights and widths, and the roots or beam dividing line. Here is a beautiful photograph of the Parthenon. So Plato described the golden ratio in his dialogue Timaeus, which describes 5 possible regular solids: the platonic solids, the tetrahedron, cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, icosahedron. Some platonic solids are related to the golden ratio. Here's a statue bust of Plato. All right, so the different names of the golden ratio include the golden number. Here we have the 21st Greek alphabet letter used as the symbol for the golden ratio, or phi. Some people say phi. I like to say phi. So other names for the golden ratio include the golden mean, the golden section, the golden number, which I think is probably easier for really small kids to remember, the golden ratio, which is the most popular name used, the golden proportion, the golden cut, extreme mean and ratio, mean of Phidias, divine section, medial section, divine proportion, and phi, which is also very popular. So this lesson wouldn't be complete if you weren't introduced to Leonardo of Pisa, also nicknamed Fibonacci. So let's talk briefly about him. So here's the Fibonacci number series, starting with 0, 1. 0 plus 1 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, etc. So each subsequent number is added together to give you the next number. So starting with the first 2 numbers, each subsequent number is the sum of the previous numbers. And this is related to the golden ratio by dividing each larger number by the previous smaller number. And what happens if you divide each, like say you divide 8 by 5, it'll give you, I'm not sure what it will give you. I'm not going to calculate it here and now. But as you go up the number series, you will get closer and closer to 1.618, or the golden ratio. Pretty amazing, huh? So, like I just said, going through the sequence, when you divide the larger number by the smaller number, you get closer and closer to the golden ratio. So Fibonacci helped spread the Hindu Arabic numerals that we use today, 0, 1, 2 through 9, across Europe. He wrote a book called Liber Abaci. He also introduced a famous sequence called the Fibonacci rabbit sequence in his book Liber Abaci, which means the book of calculation. Fibonacci presented a story problem about the speed of ideal rabbit breeding in a year. So here's the story summary. So if a pair of newborn rabbits, male and female, were placed in a pen to reproduce, how many pairs of rabbits will they have in a year? And here you can see the story problem written out in pictures. So begin with 1 pair who are too young to reproduce until they're 2 months old. So there they are, they're 2 months old. After 1 month, they produce 2 pairs, then 3 pairs, then 5 pair of rabbits, and then we have 8 pair of rabbits. The answer is actually on another, I'm not sure if I included the answer slide. So this is it's a story problem. So it's not based on reality here, although rabbit multiplication perhaps at some point in time has actually yielded the answer that this problem gives. And now the problem with this is they never die. So, and rabbits have a short life expectancy. So this is a figurative story problem. Oh, and there's the answer. The rabbit pairs would have reproduced 233 rabbit pairs by the 11th month. So 233 plus 144 pairs equals 377 pairs at the end of 1 year or 12 months. And then here we have a monument of Leonardo of Pisa. So there's your history connection. This statue was created by Giovanni Paganucci in 1863 in the Camposanto di Pisa. So here you can see the beautiful connection with history, with art, with mathematics, architecture. Pretty extraordinary connections. And that's how you can bring math alive. So here is the last piece I want to share with you. Sir Roger Penrose. He's a famous English mathematician and professor. So in 1931, Roger Penrose described symmetrical pattern with golden ratio in aperiodic tilings field. So this artwork in the background illustrates the type of art that this refers to. His work led to a new discovery of quasi-crystals, which exhibiting previously thought impossible crystal symmetries. And quasi-crystals are actually used in technology and for making special types of metals that are really durable. So here we have an oil painting by Ernst Schmidt in 1995 of a Penrose tiling using fat and thin rhombi. And this is also a type of tessellation. And thank you so much for watching. And the reason I'm showing the Mona Lisa here is that the Mona Lisa has been found to exhibit the beautiful proportions of the golden ratio found throughout the entire painting, from her face to her head to the proportion of her body and the entire painting as well. All right. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching. And let me get my full portrait here. There. Thank you for watching, and I will be back tomorrow again. So thank you. I'm Gloria Brooks, founder of Nature Glows eScience. Go ahead and grab my unit study planner. It's free, and it will show you how you can create a unit study like you just saw me demonstrate with the slideshow. Bye for now.